So, how has this upbringing shaped my choices of business ventures today? My choices of business ventures have been somewhat unrelated, right? Because somewhere along the line, I moved from just basic business ideas for profitability to, figuring out certain areas where I felt like there was a problem and trying to solve these particular problems. At some point, I joined my dad, so I moved from mom's side of the business. Now I joined dad to be able to run his cosmetics business, pharmacy, provision shop, and he eventually opened as well an off-license business where we sold drinks on wholesale and also on retail. So at that point, I jumped on and we did that for some time. My mom also eventually graduated from just fruits and all of that to now opening a local joint for food selling. It's what we call mommy puts in our regular language. But then I also joined her for a while, and then we also did that. Fast forward now to 2020 when we launched the Hearts Restaurant by Da Prince Empire. I was able to bring all that experience from managing a local food joint to managing a fine dining restaurant. That also, I think, probably ignited a passion for me in the tourism sector. And keep in mind, I also worked a little bit in that. So I think that also, like, generally, I think what I took away from this entire experience was now the ability to manage a small scale business onto a larger scale business. And then I think it also ignited the passion in me. Like, the passion was always there. When I was growing up, I always had interest in art. I always thought I wanted to be an actress. That's also a story for another day. But when I thought the art might not work in Cameroon, what was the next best thing to work? It was business, because that came to me like second nature. So basically, all these experiences just made me want to dive in more and figure out more what this business world is all about, and that led me to taking a majors in business study, and today I have a BSc in business with specialty in marketing. And I think now I'm able to fully take what I've learned from the school of life and blend with what I've learned from the classroom, and I think that's what is helping us go by. As with any renowned business person, you have to be able to learn as you go along. You have to be able to fail and make those errors and then to be able to perfect them. So basically, what are the lessons that I've learned in my short span of time in business? What are the failures and what are the wins? I would say, for example, I had this very funny example. My first major fail in business, I think, was when I was in Form 5. My other sister started me off with this capital of 45,000, at that time, to be able to manage a call box. That was way back in 2007 when the EVD SIMs just started, and then MTN, we used to go to call box, to credit transfers, to make calls, and all of that. Trust me, back then that was a lucrative business. So with that capital of 45,000, I should have been able to probably triple the amount. But imagine her shock and mine as well when it was time for me to go back and present my records, and all I could barely come up with was like 40,000 francs to probably make some part of what she gave me to start off with. And she looked at me and she was like, okay. And trust me, I felt the shame. But I could tell you, I thought I was doing everything right. But now that I sit back and then I reflect after the encounter with her, I think I could tell immediately the things I did wrong in that particular venture. So that's, I think, my first major fail in business. Now, if you move on to all the different initiatives, I mean, I'm a hustler at heart. If you move on to all the different initiatives and to all the business ideas that I probably started, some which I have continued and some which I've dropped along the way, I think some of the lessons and some of the things that I've come up with is just the consistencies. Like, you have to be consistent in business. Fast forward to now when we are running the Prince Empire and all its affiliates. Some of the affiliates have had to close down. Some we've had to probably re-strategize and to revitalize. We've had to, adapt in different circumstances and to embrace dynamism, to be able to shift a little bit from our initial vision, just to be able to sustain ourselves. So basically, I'll tell you that I've had a fair share of wins and losses in business. But I also think about the fact that in my whole career, I've mostly worked for small and medium-sized enterprises, and these have been owned by sole proprietors. So that what that just means is there is basically we've worked for those businesses that were barely starting up and that have been struggling to make it. Just being able to help some of these businesses achieve sustainability or to reach a point of break even and then even go on to make profits. I think those are some major highlights for me in the journey to entrepreneurship. So now I think the biggest win for me has been establishing a business on my own. And I mean, we are going to 4 years now in business, if I'm not mistaken, and we are still standing. So I think that all these lessons have grown with me basically over time. So, if I were to sum up, I think some of the most important lessons in my entrepreneurial journey into 4 points, I'll say the first thing is priorities in business. Priorities, you always have to have a scale of preference and what you have to handle first. You can't tackle everything at once. The second thing is going to be process. How you effectively go about a business idea determines whether it's going to last or not. And I think the third thing is always going to be the importance of strategy and intentionality in business. It has to be an intentional effort for you. And I think the fourth thing is never ever give up. Never ever give up. I mean, never ever give up. I cannot emphasize that. I think I'm consistently learning this as we go. I'm not yet 100% there, but I'm consistently learning that you cannot give up. The minute you give up is when it's over. So I also want to say, I think basically, um, for those of us who've had this upbringing, very often some of us say, we will not want our children to go through the same things like we went through growing up as children. But I want us to look at it this way. I want you to expose your children to the best parts of you while you were growing up. So effectively, I'm not saying you must raise your child in the same condition, but for every youth that you come in contact with, for every person that you are responsible and accountable for, I would think the what you owe them the most is probably exposing them to the same things that built your fortitude, that built your strength, and that made you effectively, especially if you're a successful person. The importance of this story is just to say that some are born into it, others are caught up into it, and some are born with it. So business is something that you can either have as an innate quality in you, or it's something that you can as well pick up along the way and you can learn to probably be good at, in summary. So very often when I sit down and I ask myself, why would somebody trust me to guide them on business or maybe on entrepreneurship, I just realized that you cannot understand why me, as young as I am, will probably be sitting here talking to you about entrepreneurship, business, and all of that. So but basically, if you can figure out my journey and if you can understand the story, then maybe it will probably just in some way help you to make an informative decision as to why you should listen to Gembali Media Space. So I mean, all of this has helped me build up a body of work and a work ethic as well that is very well admired. I think that there is something for everybody to learn on Gembali Media Space. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nade. Yeah. Yes. Now the only thing that I've then talk about that. If you are new to this channel, thank you for taking our time to watch this video. If this is your first time on the channel and if you found this video insightful and enriching and enlightening, please take out the time to subscribe, to like, to share, and to help us grow this channel together. I would truly appreciate if you can click on the share button and share this video, make it go viral if that's a thing. And if you can comment, I would like you to leave on the comment sections as well if you can relate to my own experiences, if you've probably had similar experiences. I'd love to hear about them in the comment section below. Thank you, and until next time. Today we are shooting from the comfort of my office in Da Prince Empire, so don't forget that. Be sure to check us out. Berry.